Welcome to this explainer. I gotta tell you, I am incredibly excited to share today's journey with you because we're gonna build something truly fascinating together. We are constructing a conceptual blueprint of reality, a literal architecture of awareness, by synthesizing quantum physics, information theory, and some really profound philosophical traditions. We're diving deep into how matter, information, and consciousness might all actually connect. So, if you've ever wanted a structured, logical way to think about the metaphysical universe, well, you are definitely in the right place.
Let's kick things off with a profound mystery, shall we? Where do thoughts actually come from? Honestly, every civilization throughout human history has wrestled with this. Does your brain act like this biological factory, just churning out every thought, every feeling, and every spark of imagination totally from scratch? Or could it be that thoughts already exist out there as possibilities, and your brain is just acting like an antenna, receiving and experiencing them? Keep that puzzle in the back of your mind, because solving that is exactly what our architecture is designed to do.
To make sure we don't get totally lost in the clouds, here is our roadmap. We'll start with physics, philosophy, and consciousness, then move into the universal information layer. After that, we'll explore the brain as an interface and look at the feedback loop of meaning. Finally, we'll factor in ancestors and generational influence before revealing the complete architecture.
All right, let's jump into Section 1, Physics, Philosophy, and Consciousness.
So, our physical foundation begins with one of the absolute greatest hits of modern physics, the Higgs field. Now, people often confuse mass with weight. Weight is entirely dependent on gravity, but mass is all about inertia. It's the resistance an object has to any change in its motion. Imagine you're at the grocery store pushing a fully loaded shopping cart with a wobbly wheel. It takes a ton of effort to get that thing moving, and just as much effort to get it to stop. That's mass. According to the standard model of particle physics, our whole universe is permeated by this invisible ocean called the Higgs field. As elementary particles move through it, the field creates resistance. It gives them mass. The particles are already there, but the field gives them the physical property they need to form stable matter.
Now, what if we take that established, rock-solid physics and use it as a springboard for a massive philosophical analogy? If the Higgs field gives matter its essential physical property, could there possibly be a field that gives rise to our subjective experience? Enter the highly speculative consciousness field. Now, to be clear, we aren't saying this field magically creates your specific thoughts. Rather, just like the Higgs field gives particles mass, this universal field gives potential information its subjective presence. It's the thing that allows an abstract possibility to actually be felt and experienced by you.
Okay, but before we go any further down the rabbit hole, we absolutely need to draw a hard line in the sand between science and speculation. It's so important to notice the clear divide here. The Higgs field and measurable brain activity, those sit firmly in the domain of established empirical science. The consciousness field, on the other hand, is pure speculative philosophy. It's a conceptual map, guys, not a proven scientific claim. Maintaining that strict boundary is absolutely crucial because it lets us explore these expansive, creative ideas without losing our intellectual rigor.
Moving right along to Section 2, the universal information layer.
Have you ever actually stopped to think about how matter and energy are constantly changing, but information just persists? Think about it. You can take a single story and print it in a heavy physical book, read it on the glowing screen of your smartphone, or just speak it out loud to a friend. The physical medium completely changes in all those scenarios, but the core meaning of the story remains exactly identical. That suggests something pretty profound, right? It implies that information itself might be a fundamental underlying layer of reality that survives completely independent of its physical shell.
And that brings us perfectly to this ancient esoteric concept, the Akashic Records. But hold on, we're not looking at this as some mystical filing cabinet floating up in the clouds. No, instead I want you to think of it as a massive, multidimensional knowledge graph. It's essentially an infinite conceptual library containing all possible events, all thoughts, and all outcomes. Down in this layer of reality, information is connected by these incredibly intricate relationships rather than, say, alphabetical order. It is a vast architecture of universal knowledge that simply exists.
Which takes us to Section 3, the brain as an interface.
This leads us to a brilliant way to picture this dynamic, the internet browser analogy. Instead of viewing your brain as this biological factory generating consciousness out of nowhere, our model treats it as an interface. Just think of a computer connected to Wi-Fi. The web pages you're scrolling through aren't physically stuffed inside your laptop's monitor. Your computer is just accessing a vast external network. If your laptop breaks, the internet doesn't just cease to exist, right? You just lose your personal connection to it. In exactly the same way, the brain is simply a piece of hardware, a receiver, accessing a much larger network of potential information.
But, that begs the question.
If all this infinite information is just out there, why aren't we experiencing everything everywhere all at once? Well, it basically comes down to selection versus illumination. Imagine that infinite universal library again. Your awareness plane is kind of like your specific library card. It dictates exactly which restricted section of books you're actually allowed to access. It selects. Meanwhile, the consciousness field is like sunlight pouring through the library windows. That sunlight didn't write the books, obviously, but it illuminates them so you can actually read and experience them.
On to Section 4, the feedback loop of meaning.
So, you might be wondering, if all the knowledge in the universe already exists, what is the actual point of living a physical life? Well, it's not about creating brand new universal facts. It's about transforming abstract potential into embodied meaning. Look at how this flows. First, information exists merely as a cloud of potential. Second, physical life forces us to encounter it head-on, giving us resistance and context. Third, that physical experience gets integrated, forever changing our relationship with that knowledge. So the physical universe is essentially a giant meaning engine. Without it, all that information is just cold, abstract data.
To really put that into perspective, just imagine two people standing side by side witnessing the exact same sunset. Observer A looks at it and sees only the atmospheric scattering of light, just pure calculated physics. But observer B looks at the exact same sunset and experiences a profound wave of grief and hope, maybe remembering a lost loved one. The external physical event happening in front of them is completely identical, but the internal meaning generated by their human experience is radically different. And it's that generated meaning that permanently transforms the observer's future awareness.
Let's get into Section 5, Ancestors and Generational Influence.
To really ground this in our daily reality, let's start with what hard science actually proves. We are profoundly shaped by our ancestors. For sure, we physically and socially inherit our genetics, our brain development patterns, deep-seated family cultures, language structures, and all sorts of learned behaviors. These are undeniable empirical starting points. They literally dictate how we begin to perceive and interact with the world around us.
But inside our architectural framework, we actually take that a step further. Those inherited biological and cultural traits, they are shaping the very pathways of our awareness. As the concept goes, each generation doesn't just pass down DNA, they pass down entire patterns of meaning. These inherited lenses dictate the exact starting point of the next generation's awareness plane. So you are essentially navigating the universal information architecture right now using a compass that was calibrated by the experiences of everyone who came before you. Mind-blowing, right?
Finally, Section 6, the complete architecture.
Okay, here is how this whole system cascades from top to bottom. At the highest level, we have the ultimate source. From there, reality flows downward into the conceptual universal information layer. That information then structures emergent space and time, leading all the way down to the physical universe and biological life. Hey, that's us. Our brains interface with this reality, which generates experience, meaning, and wisdom. And from that experience, a new expanded awareness loops right back up to form a deeper relationship with reality itself. Now, for this whole framework to be compatible with classical monotheistic traditions like Islam, Christianity, or Judaism, we really have to define that top layer distinctly. The Creator is not just some generic higher consciousness or just another box in the chain. The Creator is entirely transcendent. God is the eternal source sustaining the whole architecture. The universal information layer doesn't just exist on its own, it represents all knowledge held by the Creator. Everything in this architecture depends entirely on this source, while the source itself depends on absolutely nothing. When you zoom out and look at the human journey within this grand architecture, you can sum up the entire dynamic feedback loop with one massive guiding principle. You enter physical existence to exercise free choice, to face resistance, and to learn. Reality is encountered through experience. That experience becomes meaning. Meaning builds your character and your wisdom, which totally transforms your awareness. And that new awareness entirely changes how you are going to encounter reality tomorrow. It is this continuous, incredibly beautiful cycle of transformation. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a pretty provocative question. It's a question this model intentionally leaves totally open. Is the universal archive of information completely fixed, meaning all possibilities already exist and we're just slowly uncovering them? Or is it a living, breathing system where your human experiences and your unique daily struggles genuinely add brand new relational structures to the universal whole? There isn't a scientific answer for that yet, but man, it is a stunning concept to ponder. Thank you so much for exploring this architecture of awareness with me. Keep navigating your unique path, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.